So the day everyone has been waiting for is finally here. The long-awaited first ever summit between the leaders of North Korea and the United States is going to take place shortly in Singapore at the Capella Hotel. With today's summit, there are high hopes that the two sides can finally put an end to the years of tensions and solve North Korea's nuclear issue. Will Pyongyang denuclearize, and will the U.S. guarantee security for the North? We'll soon find out the answers to those questions, hopefully. For more on this, our Ji-won, who is part of Arirang's special Singapore summit coverage team, is out there in the city-state for us. Ji-won, do we know anything of the summit schedule?
Mark, the summit will take place at 9 a.m. local time, so that's 3 hours from now. Now, we do not yet know when the two leaders will leave their hotels in downtown Singapore, but with the summit venue located around 20 minutes away from their hotels, it's expected that the leaders will leave sometime after 8 a.m. Now, what's interesting about this summit is that after an initial greeting, the summit will start off with Kim and Trump's one-on-one meeting with only the translators with them, according to the White House. On their first meeting, the two leaders will be able to share their deep opinions. Now, the private talk will then be followed by an expanded bilateral meeting and then a working lunch. The U.S. delegates for the expanded meeting will include Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Chief of Staff John Kelly, and National Security Advisor John Bolton. Now, mind you, Bolton, a hardliner on Pyongyang, had infuriated North Korea a few weeks ago by pushing the so-called Libya model on North Korea, where the North is asked to give up all its nuclear weapons first. So I think Kim Jong-un and his delegates' exchanges or responses to Bolton will be something interesting to look out for. And for the working lunch, Press Secretary Sarah Sanders and Ambassador Sung Kim, a former nuclear negotiator who had been at the forefront of working-level talks with the North until the very last day, will be joining Trump and Kim. And when the summit finishes, President Trump is to hold a press briefing before returning to the U.S. at around 8 in the evening. While many of the plans and details on the U.S. side have been shared through the White House press secretary's office, not much is known on North Korea. But watchers say that Kim Yong-chol, vice chairman of North Korea's ruling Workers' Party Central Committee, and the North Korean leader's younger sister, Kim Yo-jong, will certainly be among those accompanying Kim in the extended meeting. Now, Kim, according to Reuters, is scheduled to fly back to Pyongyang at 2 in the afternoon, which is just 5 hours after the start of his summit with his U.S. counterpart.
So, Ji-won, what do we think are going to be the main watch points for today's summit?
The main deal for today's summit is whether Kim Jong-un will comply with the U.S. request of complete, verifiable, irreversible denuclearization, or CVID, and whether Trump will give a complete, verifiable, and irreversible guarantee of security, or CVIG, to Kim Jong-un and his regime. Now, the working-level delegations of Sung Kim and North Korea's Vice Foreign Minister, Choi Sun-hee, who had been negotiating over at the inter-Korean border village of Panmunjom a number of times, met again a couple more times in Singapore. The two sides were negotiating until late last night, heading back to their hotels at around 10 p.m. local time. Now, according to inside sources, the discussions seem to have hinged on the notion of North Korea's CVID. Unnamed sources say the U.S. seeks to get a commitment from the North to CVID in writing, but Pyongyang is protesting strongly against the phrase because it sees it as portraying the regime as a defeated country. And with North Korea asking for CVIG, we will have to see if the U.S. will come to some kind of an agreement with the North.
And Ji-won, do we have some kind of response from the U.S.? Were we able to see these kinds of unresolved issues, weren't we, in Pompeo's press briefing on Monday?
Well, Mark, Trump just tweeted early this morning that meetings between representatives are going well and quickly, but that doesn't matter, and they will soon find out whether a real deal can be reached, unlike those of the past. And many of us are cautiously optimistic, as the Secretary of State had also said yesterday that the talks are progressing fast. But Pompeo also, at the same time, pressed the North on what the U.S. will accept and what it will not. Have a listen.
The ultimate objective we seek from diplomacy with North Korea has not changed. The complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization of the Korea Peninsula is the only outcome that the United States will accept.
And he also warned that sanctions will remain and even increase if the North does not completely and verifiably eliminate its weapons of mass destruction programs. Now, that is the latest we have on the content of today's summit. But coming back to today's schedule, it's still quite early, but many reporters are already standing by near the hotels of the two leaders. We will now connect to our Jong-un, who is standing by to tell us more about what it's like there. So, Jong-un, where exactly are you, and how is the atmosphere there like?
Good morning. I'm speaking to all of you from the River Valley Road in downtown Singapore. Where I'm standing right now is less than 2 kilometers away from the St. Regis Hotel and the Shangri-La Hotel, where North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and U.S. President Donald Trump have stayed respectively. Now, we cannot know for sure which route both leaders will take to today's summit venue, but we do have a highly probable scenario, and we believe it's possible that the two leaders' route to the Capella Hotel on the Sentosa Island will start overlapping from the Irwell Bank Road, which is right behind me. And then they are expected to take a turn right here to take the River Valley Road on their way to the Capella Hotel on the Sentosa Island. Their route is not likely to be confirmed beforehand, but we've seen several police officers gathered at this small intersection, maybe to beef up security on this road. As for the Sentosa Island, where the Capella Hotel is located, businesses will run as usual and the gateway won't be completely blocked, but we know that some traffic lanes will be blocked, and visitors to the island will be randomly picked for baggage check as well. And definitely the area surrounding the Capella Hotel will be under security, high security as well, definitely in fact. As you've briefly mentioned, Ji-won, we're not sure when the leaders will leave for the Capella Hotel and depart from each of their hotels, but we know that their hotels are located only 20 minutes away from the Capella Hotel. So, yeah, that's all we have for now. That's all I have for now, and I'll have more updates for later newscasts. Ji-won.
Thank you for that update, Jong-un. Now, Mark, that's all we have from Singapore as of now, but we'll be updating you throughout the day.